First of all, I would like to give a heads up to those guys who are asking me about the new Steel Path hard mode. I'm sorry, but I guess I will not have any first impression video on this one. My internet decided to fuck me up again. I tried everything that I could, but it did not work. I was able to play on the test cluster for a short period, but then I decided to log off for a while, since I'm going to grab some groceries. Sadly, I can't pass the Warframe launcher since then. It's not because of Warframe, but because of my crap internet whose download speed submerges to 0.01 kilobytes. I'll try again later, but I won't promise any early reviews for this new game mode. But to give you a small hint on what to expect, Steel Path is like a new game plus. Once you selected the new mode, you will start at the very first node 1 Earth. Only this time, you'll be facing level 100 plus enemies. Long story short, you need to unlock all start chart which enemies are over 100 levels. I wasn't able to grab any solid grasp on the reward system, but I saw something like a 100% increase in drop chance for resources and mods. I really would like to continue and know more about this new game mode, as it's really interesting honestly, but as you can see, I'm limited with what I can do with my internet right now. So, instead of focusing on the things that I can't do, I will just give you some quality Equinox content. Now here's a fact. Players who don't like Equinox just don't know the power of this frame. Admittedly, I wasn't really excited about the Prime version of this frame, because I find this frame weird, and I only use Equinox for low-level exterminators, and to farm the index. This frame wasn't in the list of my all-time favorite, but after I spend more time playing this frame, I realized that Equinox is amazing and I was just dumb for not knowing this frame's strength. I was just too focused on duality builds, that I neglected Equinox's other insane abilities. Don't get me wrong, duality builds are strong because of the 300% damage increase, but it's kind of mediocre in high-level plays. The most common scenario is that your clone will get killed before it can even deal damage, or you will be camping in one spot, or you'll be spending a lot of energy pizza just to make good use of Void Shadow's invisibility buff to allies, from the honor of focus. I'm not saying that duality build is weak, in fact, I have a duality build variation for Equinox in this video. What I'm only saying is that, you shouldn't do the same mistake I've done, by just focusing on damage alone. The most enticing feature of Equinox might be her day form, since it allows you to nuke a room, but the truth is, her night form is the most insane form of this frame. First of all, night form does give you both bonus armor, and shields per kill. In fact, a full umbral Equinox, with about 236% power strength will gain 1028 total armor, which results in a 77% damage reduction. It will get to 84% if you somehow add a 900 bonus armor buff from your Arcane Guardian. However, armor is not the best survivability of Equinox, but her sleep and shield per kill will keep her alive for the rest of the mission. The night form of rest and rage ability is somehow the best ability for Equinox, not only for crowd control, but also for survivability. Every time you put an enemy to sleep, you lessen the threat, and you will build up your shields once you kill those enemies while in night form. Remember that shield gating is a thing right now, and most likely, you will gain enough shields always to somehow get a small invulnerability window to react and not get killed. Also, her sleep can be used in different ways aside from survivability and crowd control. Putting enemies to sleep will open them up to finish her damage, which you can use with some of the most insane synergies for Equinox that I'll try to show later. The best part of her sleep ability is that, it scales very well with range mods, and it's so easy to use. And because of this, Equinox can be a good alternative when it comes to solo leveling weapons in the game. A max range Equinox is great in the Adaro Exterminate mission in Sedna. Not because she can do it easily, but because it allows you to take advantage of stealth multiplier and gain more affinity. This leads to faster rank up for your weapons. However, I'm not saying that all primary and secondary weapons can be rank up using this method. There are limitations since other guns can't be modded well to one-shot enemies in Adaro Sedna. But most of the time, guns can be leveled up easily using Equinox. Take for example Corinth Prime. This weapon with a catalyst installed will give you 44 mod capacity. That's enough to put damage, Hell's Chamber, Radiation Element, and the silent battery mod. I can fit all these mods also because the Corinth Prime has built-in polarities, but for other weapons that don't have any polarities, you should try to fit in mods that will give you the same stats, but only with lower values. All guns may not be suitable for solo leveling with Equinox, but all melee weapons are. Now I was always using Equinox to solo level my melee weapons in the past. I was just using the old finisher damage build for every melee weapons. But since the melee rework, leveling melee weapons have gotten way better with Equinox. It's because you can also use a heavy attack build aside from finisher damage right now. There's really no difference, since you'll be kill enemies and getting affinity with the same build, but I find heavy attack way faster in terms of time completion. Anyway, you can either use a finisher build or a heavy attack type if you wish to level up your melee weapons with Equinox. For faster leveling, I highly advise you to use Naraman Focus and make sure that affinity spike is on. Now let's proceed to everyone's favorite part, the nuke builds. For any nuke builds, I would recommend Equinox's Energy Transfer Augment. It may sound simple, but the feature of the augment which allows you to get 100% of the charge you get from men to maim, and vice versa. Long story short, the number of charges you gain from night form will contribute to the nuking power of your day form's fourth ability. Now this mod setup here is my very first Equinox build. The whole idea of this build is pretty simple. You activate her fourth first, then cast her first ability to spawn your clone, and then activate Unaru's Void Shadow to make the clone invisible. After that, all you need to do is sit back and relax with your operator, and let the clone do all the killing until you gain enough charge to nuke the room with your maim ability. It's a good build overall, especially for endgame levels, but I find it boring just relying on my clone. Also, this kind of playstyle is slow and I wouldn't recommend it for those who like to move around. Plus, the clone might prove to be annoying sometimes, as it may just sit there or do nothing, or it will die before it takes form because of Equinox's slow casting first ability. A good build, but not suited for everyone. That is why instead of the duality augment, I slapped the streamline mod on my build. With this build, I won't be relying on a squishy clone anymore. Instead, I will be relying on most of the time with sleep for crowd control and survivability. The build will give my second ability a whooping 95 meters range, and a decent 14 seconds duration. This is sufficient to kill enemies in any means possible. Plus, the additional efficiency on this build makes my Equinox a caster frame. I can freely activate my abilities anytime I want, while also maintaining the energy drain that I have on my fourth ability. Your night form will basically keep you alive as it will restore your shield per kill. And if you have enough charges, you can just switch to your day form and nuke them all. For more dumb fun, I suggest that you use my current synergy. I was a big fan with a Vulcan Blitzjet kit hag in the past, and it did give me tons of dumb fun playing with my Equinox on long endurance runs. However, this synergy is old school, and there's a better way to nuke enemies over and over again. I present to you the Architydron. Take note that I will be showing how effective this synergy on long endurance runs later in a separate video. I'm sorry if I wasn't able to include one here because I wasn't able to record my Kuva survival run with this Equinox setup. Rest assured that I will give proof later, but for now, let's focus on the synergy. If you have watched my Nuke Hammer video, then you already know how powerful Architydron's slam attack is. When you pair this with the Equinox build I've shown earlier, it will do wonders and you can have some non-stop nuking fun with it. The special connection of Architydron to this build is that it allows you to stack up those charges that you need on your fourth ability much faster. Each damage you inflict with your Architydron will charge up your maim ability. A few finisher kills, then followed by a nuke slam attack, will give you 1 million damage build, and you will be able to nuke a room of non-armored enemies with ease. To replicate this synergy, all you need is a lot of damage to your Architydron. If you have extra former, then you can add another to this build so you can equip the prime version of Fever Strike. I could have primed Fever Strike, but I won't sacrifice Primed Fury over it on this current build. The difference in the casting animation between equipping Primed Fury and Berserker is between night and day, and this primed mod just does it better when it comes to killing enemies faster with a finisher. Moving along, I got a mix of Seismic Wave and Finishing Touch. Seismic Wave is basically for the radial attack. It does scale well with Architydron's slam capacitor, that when you have full 10 times charge, You will completely melt enemies with a nuke attack, while finishing touches obviously for the finisher damage, which will help Architydron build up its slam capacitor to max level. Now, this is not needed, but if you want, you can try a max arcane trickery for this synergy. It's not the main feature on this build, but can be a sort of safety net. Mostly, you'll be spending your time with finisher kills, allowing you to proc arcane trickery more often. It's not needed but worth adding if you want more survivability at higher level gameplay. What about our third ability, Squad Leader? Well, it's not a useless ability, to say the least, but acts as a support ability to Equinox's night and day form. It works well when you have the Peaceful Provocation mod, as it allows you to slow enemies when you are in night form, while adding extra power strength when you are in day form. The only problem is, enemies need to damage you first to get the buff, which is not really helpful especially in high-level missions. I was using a Peaceful Provocation build in the past, but only for support purposes. Being a support is kind of cool, but I like the idea of putting enemies to sleep then nuking them to their death. The things I've shown here are just basic stuff on how you can have fun with Equinox. I do hope that you make this as your starting point to create more synergy with this frame. Please give this video a like if you find it informative, and be sure to subscribe for more Warframe content. Thank you so much for watching. Squad Leader signing off.